9:50. So please be punctual because we have almost nearly 90 students. So next time, please be punctual. Are you seeing my slide?
Yes.
Okay. So today I'm going to introduce you to the chapters in the second main part. I mean the international freight forwarding and transportations. So this is the second chapter of the second main part of this course. It's about the shippings, or in the other words, it is a sea freight, or maritime transportations. It means we use ships or the vessels in order to carry the goods. So this is actually this is the most important chapters in our course, because we spend about six classes to talk about the shippings or sea freight. So why this is the most important one? Because actually it's in the words, in histories. So shippings or the maritime transportation is the first kind of transportation mode that we have used in the words. I mean in terms of carrying the goods from the seller's country to the buyer's countries, or the exporter countries to the importer countries. And the other thing is, using the shippings, it brings us a lot of benefits. And so later on, we are going to analyze about the different kind of benefits that we can have when we use shipping in order to carry the goods. So this is the outline of the chapters. So basically, I divided the chapter into the two main parts, which is the first one is introduction to shippings. It means you have to talk some information related to the advantages and disadvantages of shippings. The other thing is about the infrastructures. And the second main part of this chapter is about the methods, different kind of methods of vessel charters. So even though we use maritime transport, but in the maritime transport, we also have different kind of methods of vessel charters. So generally speaking, we have to talk about the liner charters and the voyage charters. So because you have many information in this chapter, so that's why I for the first part, I mean the introduction to shippings. So I just want to give you general informations. So for the other part, I'd like to ask you to read. And we have to focus on the second main part, I mean the methods of vessel charters. So in further details for the liner charters, so besides talking about the way to do that kind of methods, so we have to mention to the documents that we have to use in the transportation process. So actually you have to mention to the bill of lading. So for the bill of lading, this is a very, very important thing, because this is the main kind of transportation documents that we have to use in the maritime transport. And also, if we, for the other kind of transportation modes, like air freight, maybe the railway, roadway, multimodal transport, we also have the bill of lading in such kind of transportation methods. So that's why we have to analyze very carefully about the ocean bill of lading first, and this will be the fundamentals for you, the basics for you, in order to learn the other kind of bill of lading that you have to use in the other kind of transportation modes. And also related to the bill of lading, so beside the definition, beside the functions, so we have to know the different kind of ocean bill of ladings that we currently use in reality. It means I'm going to guide you how to use bill of lading in reality. So we have to be familiar with the procedures in reality, how to receive the goods, how to do the custom clearance procedures, for example, so on and so forth. And also related to the bill of lading, so we also have to mention to the legal system. So what I mean is the legal system that you have to use if something happened between us and the carrier. It means between the cargo owners, either exporter or importer with carrier. So the most popular one is during the transportation process. If something like the damage of the goods, or maybe the loss of the goods, or maybe the delay in delivery of the goods. So how should we do to protect our benefits? So we need to rely on the legal system. And this is a legal system that we have to use in the transportation sector. So this is also the very important things. So that's why in the materials of the class, the photos of materials of the class, I already uploaded the slide distractors and also the different legal system related to the maritime transportation that we have to use in these chapters. And besides later on, I'm going to upload some other materials when we talk about the bill of lading and also the void charter parties. So for the void charter parties, so this is another kind of transportation of another kind of vessel charters methods or methodologies. So for the void charter parties, so actually you have to know how to negotiate. This is actually the contracts, the transportation contracts between the seller, either the sellers or the buyer with the carrier. So we have to know how to deal with different terms and conditions in the contracts, similar to the sales contract that we have analyzed in the previous course, I mean the international trade transactions. So now we have to know how to negotiate different terms and conditions in the transportation contracts, maritime transportation contracts. And also the other thing is if there is any conflicts, a dispute happens, so what are the solutions for that kind of problems, for example. So it means you have to deal with many things in this chapter. So if you have, I think, because we in our class, we also have foreigner or foreign students. So I have to explain everything in English. But if you have any questions, any comments, please raise your voice. So I'm going to re-explain to you. And after the class, when I finish the class, so if you still have the questions in Vietnamese, so I still can help you. I'm willing to have you in Vietnamese, so don't worry about that. Okay, so let's go to the first part of these chapters. So this is the first thing is about the advantages and also the disadvantages of the maritime transport. So regarding the advantages, so you can see that I listed several things here, including the large quantity of freight or goods can be safely stored and moved in one go. Actually, in comparison with other kind of transportation modes, so in terms of the volume, actually using maritime transport, you can carry the largest quantities of goods. And the other thing is shipping is a viable and cost-effective way for moving a large amount of goods over long distances. So it means in terms of price, in terms of cost of freight. So in comparison with other kind of transportation modes, so this is the cheapest one. And so you can see that on the one hand, in terms of volume, this is the highest one. In terms of price, in terms of cost, this is the lowest one. So that's the reason why you can see that actually is in the international trade nowadays. Most of the countries, they use maritime transport in order to carry the goods that has been circulated in international trades. This is the most popular transportation mode that has been used by all countries, even for landlocked countries. So, do you know what is landlocked countries? Do you have any opinion, any idea about landlocked countries?
Yes.
So please.
I think landlocked country. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Not really clear.
I think a landlocked country is a country that does have any ocean or like no border of the country is connected to the ocean.
Exactly. Thank you. So, I think one of the very typical examples for landlocked country is Laos PDR. So Laos PDRs, because they don't have any port, I mean the ocean port. So but even of that, Laos still relies on the maritime transportations. How to do that? So usually Laos will transit the goods to the other countries like Vietnam, like Thailand, and then from the ocean port of Vietnam, ocean port of Thailand, so they can rely on the maritime transport. So via that kind of thing, they can save a lot of money, and this is also a very important and effective way for Laos PDR to connect with other countries in terms of the international trade. So you can see it's about the two important advantages of using maritime transportations based on the volume in terms of quantity and in terms of the cost. So that's why shipping is an important factor within the international transport chains. What I mean is, if you take a look to the whole transportation process, from the seller premise to the buyer premise, or from the seller's warehouse to the buyer's warehouse. So usually you have to combine many different kinds or several kind of transportation modes. Like for the first session, we have to use the trucks, and then trains, and then, for example, airplane, and then maritime. I mean the vessel or the ships, and then truck again, and then finally we will come to the final destination. I mean the bioprimates. So we have to use several kind of transportation modes. So in which we emphasize that maritime transportations can be seen as a very important factor within that kind of transportation process. So it means when we think about the multimodal transport, so we want to take advantage of the very cheap freight, very low cost of the maritime transport. So we usually enclose maritime transport together with other kind of transportation modes in order to carry the goods, in order to implement the whole transportation process from the seller's country to the buyer's countries. And also, based on such kind of benefits, so we can see that this is also my questions. What kind of goods that are suitable with the shipping or with maritime transport? What kind of goods that are suitable with shipping or the maritime transport? Do you have any opinions, any ideas about the kind of goods suitable with the maritime transport?
May I, teacher?
Sure. Please.
Teacher, may I?
Please. Can you hear me? Sure.
The first, yes. The first cargo is dry cargo, such as dry cargo and cargo like oil.
Oil?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
And some special cargo.
Special cargo? What are the special cargo?
Special cargo that need to reserve especially.
Can you list the names of the special cargos?
Such as some Fruit.
Fruit? Okay. Any other opinions?
Oh, may I add to this, teacher?
Sure, please.
Oh, thank you. So there's something called reefer, or like reefer containers.
Reefer?
So that's anything like refrigerated,
Mm.
and that can be applied to both like shipping on boats, in containers, or in transportation of on
Exactly.
trucks, or even on railway too. So
Exactly. Okay. So actually, you can see that generally speaking, so because of the very typical benefits that the maritime transport can bring to us, that's why, according to the statistics of the countries in the world, actually shipping can be used to carry almost kind of goods in international trades. Except, what are the exceptions? Can you list? What are the exceptions? Do you have any opinions about the kind of goods that we should not carry by shipping or by sea freight?
Yes, may I?
Please.
I think that the goods which require a short shipping time shouldn't be put on vessels or through maritime transport. For example, flowers, they're usually transported by air.
Exactly. Okay. So there are several things, there are several commodities that we should not use maritime transport to carry. So because if we take a look into the disadvantages of this kind of transportation modes, so we can see that slow speed. So this is, I think this is very typical ones related to the maritime transport. So usually, the speed of the vessels, moment please, can you see my good files? Okay, so the speed, average speed of the ships in the maritime transport is only from 17 to 25 nautical miles. So do you know what the nautical miles? How can we convert 1 nautical miles into the kilometer equal to?
1.825.
Exactly. 1.85?
25.
25 or 85?
1.825.
825. Okay, exactly. Thank you. Kilometer. So if you convert from 17 up to 25 nautical miles into the kilometer, so actually the average speed of the vessel is only about 40 kilometer per hour. So quite slow. So this is the very typical disadvantage of maritime transport. So that's why we sometimes for the perishable goods like a fresh flower, fresh fruit, and especially if we have the kind of the quite long transportation process, so we should not use the ships in order to carry the goods. And also the probability of risks occurring. The probability of risks occurring is, it means during according to the statistic of the insurance company in the rules, so they say that among the different kind of transportation modes, so usually the maritime transport has to cope with many kind of risks that can happen during the transportation process. So also, and you can see that because of that kind of disadvantage, so that's why for the those that which has a kind of high value and small quantity, so usually we also shouldn't carry by ships. So usually instead of using the maritime transport, we should use the airplane, we should use the air freight, for example. But basically speaking, we can see that almost kind of goods can be used, can be carried by maritime transport. So remember that. So for some, because of some of your opinion, if I remember correctly, sometimes we can carry fruit by the maritime transport. So currently you can see that sometimes we can, so now we have in Vietnam, in our market, so we have many kind of foreign of the fruit that we import, we import from the other countries. So if we have the not really long transportation process, so we can use. And if we have enough, we have quite good conditions in order to store the goods inside the refrigerator or the cold containers. So we can use a maritime transport in order to carry the fruit. The other thing is about the infrastructures of the maritime transport. Infrastructures. So for the maritime transport of the shipping, if we want to mention to the infrastructures in this kind of transportation methods, so basically we will have three kind of things. The first thing is about the route. The second thing is about the ships. And the last one is the port. And of course, this is the ocean port. So before going to the different thing, so let me just explain a little bit about the different factors that constitute to the whole system, the infrastructures in maritime transport. The first thing was the route. So actually, for the routes in the sea freight, so most of them are natural routes. What I mean is, we have to take advantage of the ocean route. So that's why this is the natural route. So it also means that we don't have to invest the capital in order to build up the routes in the maritime transport. And also, we don't have to use money every year in order to maintain the route. So that's why for the routes, actually we will not consider any countries, every countries, and we will not consider about the capital, about the investment in the route. So instead of that, you have to focus on the ships, and especially for the ocean port, because currently for the ship, you all know that if we want to take advantage of the first benefits of the maritime transportation, it means we need to invest in order to build up quite big ships and also modern ships. The second thing is about the ports, ocean ports. And at the ocean ports, you have to invest for many things in terms of infrastructures so that we can operate the ocean port very effectively in order to welcome the ships and also the goods from the different kind of port and also from the different kind of countries come in and out the port. And also the ocean port also can be seen as a factors in order to connect with other kind of activities in our society. So from the port, so for example, we can use the trucks in order to take the goods from the ocean port to the factory, from the ocean port to distribution center, from ocean port to maybe and also to the wholesaler, and also to the retailer, and finally to the customer. So this is a very important factors in order to connect with other things in our countries. So that's why I will focus on the two things. The first one is the ships and also the second thing is the ports. So let's analyze the first infrastructures in the maritime transport is about the merchant vessels, the ships. So why we are focusing on merchant vessels? Because related to the ships in the maritime transport, so we have two kinds of the ships or the vessel. The first one is military, and the second one is merchants. And you all know that because we have to talk about the transportation modes in order to carry the goods in international trade. So that's why we are not, we have to, usually we ignore the military ships and we only focus on the merchant vessel. It means the vessel used to carry the goods from this country to the other countries. So how about the specification of the merchant vessel or the merchant ships? So first of all, I'd like to explain with you the reason why if you are the either the seller or the buyer or the exporter or importer, but you have to understand very well about the specification of the ships, because you are the one who have to hire a vessel from a carrier or maybe from even via a broker, because you are one of the two parties in the contracts. And if you don't know anything about the vessels, so how can you hire a suitable vessel in order to carry the goods? Depending on your features, on your goods characteristic, depending on the transportation process, depending on the other thing, and especially related to transportation costs. If you don't understand anything about the specification or the characteristic of the ships, so it's very difficult for you to consider what is the suitable ships that you can use in order to carry the goods. So that's why I listed about 12 characteristics of the vessel or specification of the vessel that you should know so that you can have your lot in order to sign the contract with the carrier. First one is about the ship's name here. Ship's name. So this is the very simple one. So it similar to our name. It means we need to have the ship's name in order to distinguish this ship with the other ships. And usually when we have a plan to build up a new ship, so we need to name the ship at that time. And the ship's name, usually you can see that we need to record the ship's name in the for the whole documents related to the ships, so that when we do any kind of procedures, so we need to declare about the ship's name, similar to the if we want to, for example, if we are the passengers and if we want or the tourists, and we want to go to the any other place, especially when we go to the foreign countries. So we need to declare our name and our address and other information, so on and so forth. So that's about the ship's name. And how about the port of registries? Port of registries. Usually this is the vessel's home port or port of registries, vessel's home port. So what is the vessel's home port? So this is the first port or the port of origins. The first port, it means right after during due apt. So we need to we need to start operating the ships. So the first port where the ships has been registered and start their operation. So we can see this is the port of registries. And also we need to have the name of the port of registries. We need to record such kind of information in the registration documents. Next thing is about the flag of the ships. The flag of the ships. So if we just take a look into the ships, especially on board of the vessel, on board of the ships, so you might see several kind of flags of the ships. But the most important thing is about the flags that related to the nationality of the ships. So what I mean is, if we mention to the flag of the ships, it means this is the flag to shows the nationality of the ships. So if we related to the nationality of the ships, so we can divide the flag of the ship into the two main things. First thing is conventional flag, and the second thing is flag of convenience. So what is conventional flags, and how it's different with the flag of convenience? Can you? I want to I want you to spend about maybe 3 minutes to check information that related to the conventional flag and flag of convenience. And after that, you can show me your opinions about the difference between the conventional flag and flag of convenience. So please, 3 minutes. Are you done with searching information about the conventional flag and flag for convenience?
Yes.
So please.
Conventional flag is that the ship of any country then fly the flag of that country, and flag of convenience that ships of one country but registered in another country and fly the flag of that country.
Okay, so do you know, or any other ones in any other student in class know the reason why? So beside the conventional flags, so this is the very I think this is the popular ones because for the conventional flags, it means the ships owned by one countries will also fly the flag of that countries. What I mean is the conventional flag and the I mean the countries that the nationality countries of the ships also be the same as the countries, the flag of the countries that the vessels flies. However, for the flag of convenience, so we can see that the ship owned by one countries, but fly the flag of another countries. So do you know the reason why? And among
Can
the
I
three
teach you?
things, okay, so please.
So they use the flag of convenience to reduce the regulation and lower administrative fees. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Any other opinions?
Yeah.
Can I answer your question?
Please.
I think another reason is the flexibility. Like the ship owners can register their vessels in any of these states without any requirements for citizenship or presence of the actual shareholders of the company. So they are free to change the vessel's registry at any time without any restriction. So it's the higher flexibility when they use the flag of convenience instead of the traditional flags.
Okay, so I just want to remind you one more information related to the flag for convenience. So if you want your vessels to fly any kind of flag, any flag of any countries, so you need to do the registrations procedure first. So even though the vessel fly the conventional flag or the flag of convenience, so first of all you need to register the vessels.
Okay.
So later on, the vessels can fly the flag of these countries or that countries. So that's very important. So what I mean is you cannot change. You cannot change any times. What I mean is if you want to change, you need to re-register again or register again. All right.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
any other opinions? Thank you. Any other opinions?
I think another reason for ship to register the flag of convenience is to overcome the blockade policies of hostile countries.
Could you please
Yeah, I mean,
please repeat again because I cannot hear you very clearly.
okay. I think another reason is to overcome the blockade. I mean, the one country block another country.
Exactly.
The
Yes.
policy of hostile countries.
Exactly. So actually, for the and also I just heard any other opinions. Do you want to add further informations to the flag of convenience? Any other ones? Okay. So if you don't have any other opinions, so please.
Teacher, may I?
Sure, please.
By flagging out, the ship owners can take advantage of the first one is the MIMO's regulations of that country. The second one is a cheap registration fee, and also the low and or even no taxes. And also they can have the freedom to employ cheap labor from the global labor market.
Exactly. So another question is for yours because you what is your name?
My name is Diệu Linh.
Okay, so because Ling just told us several interesting information related to the flag of convenience, like taking advantage of the low registration fee, and also we take advantage of we can gain benefits from maybe the flow, the low taxes rate, so on and so forth. So what another question that I want to ask you here is, if the vessels fly out the flag of convenience of other countries. So it means the vessel need to register at that country first, and then later on, our vessels can fly the flag of that countries. So what I mean, my question is, can you raise some typical characteristic of the countries that usually allow the vessels from the other countries fly out the flags? Do you understand my questions? So for example, our countries has a kind of open registries. It means our countries allow the vessels from the other countries to register and also to fly our flags. Even though we are not the owners, those kind of ships. So what are the characteristics of these countries in terms of political features and also in terms of economic features?
They are the nature
countries. Can you explain further? Okay. Neutral countries.
Yeah, neutral country. Yeah. Okay. Because they are country that's selling the flag and They are the third country, like the poor one. I mean that. Cái đất nước thứ ba ấy.
Okay.
Yeah. They, for example, like Honduras, Egypt, Liberia, Central America, and SIP. Yeah. And
Exactly.
maybe it's a peer of Panama. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So you can see that because of course we have the vessel need to gain some kind of benefits when they fly a flag for convenience. So usually the countries who usually have the open registries, they are the neutral countries in terms of political futures. So what I mean is they are not a kind of like a some kind of very developed countries like US or maybe the like some like China's, because you know that some of your opinion talking about one country can block the other countries, right? So, for example, if the vessels from the US come to Cuba, so because between the US and Cuba, we still have some kind of political problems. So sometimes it's very difficult to operate the ship from the Cuba to the US or from the US to Cuba. So instead of that, if the ships fly the flag of the other countries that are very neutral, like a Honduras, like a Panama, like a ships, like a Costa Rica, so that's fine. So you can see that in terms of political futures, we can gain if we fly the flag of convenience for our ships. And how about the economic futures? So usually such other countries, they are the developing countries, not developed countries and also not the least developed countries. They are usually developing countries. So for the developing countries, you can say that because for the operation of the ships during the transportation process. So sometimes usually we need to come in and out any kind of port. This is maybe the loading port, unloading port, and maybe the transit port. So when the vessels come in and out any port or maybe any other kind of system like a Panama, like a Suez, so usually we have to pay an amount of money in terms of fee for the port. So if we are from the developing countries, so of course we can gain the benefits based on the lower rate of the fee, maybe the lower tax rate that we have to pay. So that's why for the developed countries, they really prefer to fly a flag of convenience for their vessels. And you can see that the countries who has the highest the numbers of the highest in terms of the numbers of the vessels which fly the flag convenience. So they are all developed countries like the US, like Japan, like South Korea, and some other countries in the European areas like the Netherlands, like Germany. And how about Vietnam? For Vietnam, we are not the one who can have the open registries because we are the socialist republic countries. So that's why it's very difficult for the other country to fly a flag of Vietnam. However, we also allow our vessel to fly the flag of convenience. And currently, we have about nearly 2,000 vessels, and among that, 1/4 of the total vessels fly flag of convenience. So what I mean is, in the world, actually, the vessels which fly the flag of convenience are more popular, much more popular than the vessels with the conventional flag. So remember that. So any questions related to flag of the vessels?
I'm sorry, teacher. Can you repeat? You mentioned that in Vietnam there are about 2,000 vessels currently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Nearly 2,000.
Nearly 2,000.
1/4. So it's about more than 400, nearly 500 vessels like the flag of convenience. The rest one still using the conventional flag.
Okay, I got it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. So the next thing is the ship owner. So I think among the different specification of the ship owner is a very simple one. But the reason why I need to mention a little bit about the ship owner is, so beside the ship's owner concept, we still have the other things. Ship owner, and you have to distinguish with carrier. So the ship owner, it means anyone who owns the ships, right? But you can see that in reality, usually we can have the two cases. The first case is if the ship owners is also the one who operate the ships and collect the fee, collect the freight from maybe from the cargo owners. So in that case, the ship owner is also the carrier. Again, if the ship owners is also the one who operate the ships and collect money, collect the freight from the cargo owners, so it means the ship owners is also the carrier. Or in other words, the ship owners the same concept with the carrier's concept. However, we still have the other popular case in the world, which is the ship owner is the one who owns the ships, and he has a lot of money, so that's why he can own the ships. However, he has no skills in the maritime transport, so that's why he let the other parties hire his ships and operate to collect freight from the cargo owners. So what I mean is, in that case, the ship owners and the carriers are the two different parties. The ship owner is the one who owns the ships, and the carrier is the one who operates the ships. So that's in that case, because the ship owners, he doesn't operate the ships, so that's why he is not the carrier. So from the point of view of cargo owner, what I mean is either the sellers or the buyers. So who should we know very clearly in the contracts? I mean the transportation contracts. Ship owners or the carrier? Carrier. Because carrier in all cases, either whether he is the ship owners or not, he always the one who signed the contract with us. So that's why you have to know very clearly about the carriers. You have to pay more attention on the carrier than the ship's owner concept. Next one is about the dimensions of the ships. So when we take a look into the dimension of the ships, so usually I just want to introduce you to the two typical things, even though actually in terms of technical issues, there are still, I think, many things that related to the dimension of the ships. So the thing that I want to mention with you are the length overalls and the beam. So let's take a look to these pictures. Can you see the pictures?
Yes.
Okay. So please imagine that this is our vessel, and this is a kind of very typical shapes of the ships here. So length overall, actually this is the dimensions from here to here, the distance from here to here. This is the length overall. And how about the beam? How about the beam? Beam, this is actually you can see not I think the here. This is the beam from here to here. So now let's come back to our concept. A moment, please. Sorry, I have a important phone call. So a moment, please.
6 more days, guys. 6 more. Young Jay. Jin Young. Yo. Mark. Yug. Bam Bam. Yo, this is gonna be a movie.
Okay.
My boy Jackson
Shall we come back?
and JB.
Okay, so let's come back to the concept first, related to the length, overall, and about the beam. The length overall is the greatest length of the shapes from fore to aft, and the beam is the greatest breadth of the shapes from port to starboard. So that's, I think, also very simple, but you have to know. So related to the length overall, so the reason why we need to understand about the length overall is for any ports, for any kind of ports, the ocean port, of course. So if the vessel want to come in to the port, so we need to have an area for the ship to stay. An area. And you know that because the ship has a certain kind of length, so it means that kind of areas should have the suitable length so that it can welcome the ships to stay in the port. And after stay in the port, if the vessels has already finished the loading process, it means, for example, the ship has already loaded the goods on board the vessels. So now the ship is full of load. So of course, it means the vessels has already completed the loading process. So now the vessel has to come out from the port. So now the vessel needs to turn. So that's why you can see that the areas that we arrange for the vessel to stay also not only has the size, the length that's suitable with the length of the vessels, but also it needs to have a kind of the extra length so that it can more suitable for the vessels to stay in and then to turn to come out from the vessel from the ocean port. So that's the reason why we need to know about the length overall of the vessels. And then how about the beam? The beam is the greatest breadth of the ships from port to starboard. So actually, it related to the other kind of infrastructures in the maritime transport. So especially when you mention to the different system canals in the world, like a Suez or like Panama. For example, for Panama canals, so if the ships would like to come in to go through the Panama canals, so because you know that this is the kind of the infrastructures that made by people in the world, not a kind of the natural infrastructures. So that's why it has certain wide. So for the Panama Canal, for example, if the beam of the ships larger than 32 meters, so the vessel is impossible for the vessel to go through the Panama canals. So usually we will call such kind of vessel as kind of a post-Panama marks. It means that kind of vessels has been installed after the Panama Canal was built up, and the beam of the vessels is larger than the Panama Canal's wide. So that's why it's impossible for the vessel to go through the Panama canals. So that's the reason why we need to understand about the beam and also the length of the vessel. Next one is about the classifications.
Teacher?
Classifications, okay?
Teacher, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Panama Canal is only 32 meters in width, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are the ships built today comply with that number, like they build the ship with a beam less than that number?
So of course, we have to consider that whether we about the transportation process that the ships usually go in or go through the transportation process, and you have to consider, because if you don't want to go through the Panama canals, you have to go to the other, you have to use the other ways. So depending on the maybe the intentions of the ship owners, or maybe the intention of the shipping companies for the certain route of the ships. So if you want to go, if you want your vessels can go through the Panama canals, so of course you have to adjust the beam of the vessels suitable with the size of the Panama canals.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. Next thing is about the classification of the ships. Classifications. So what is it? I think. Do you know how to translate the classification of the ships into Vietnamese? Any one of you?
Phân loại à?
No. Classifications. That's not the exact concept. Any other ones who knows about the classifications? Cấp hạng của tàu. Cấp hạng. Các bạn đã nghe nói đến cấp hạng chưa? So it means for the classifications of the ships, similar to the other kind of transportation modes, especially the transportation modes. I mean the on road. So for example, for the car, for the trucks, or the bus. So in terms of the any for any kind of transportation modes, so before operations and also for the certain periods, according to the certain periods, so we need to register our transportation modes, and then we need to have a certain kind of classifications that is sold by a government agency in order to ensure for the quality of our transportation modes to operate. So for the car, or maybe for the truck, or any kind of the road transportation modes. So basically, we will have maybe every year. As far as I know that for the if you are the owners of the very new transportation modes, the new ones. So the first period of time that you should have the classification, the first classification will be validated within maybe 2 years or maybe 3 years, depending on the type of the cars or type of the transportation modes that you are owning. And but from the next time, from the second time, so that certain period of time will be reduced. So maybe up to 1 year, maybe just 6 months, for example. So similarly for the ships or for the vessels, so you have to register, and the vessel of the ship, your vessels of the ships also need to be checked by a government authority. This is the classification authorities, and then they will issue for your classifications document in order to make sure for the quality of the vessels. And in the maritime transportation, so every 3 years, you need to do that kind of procedures again, every 3 years, but still every year you need to the vessels still need to be checked in terms of quality to see whether the ships is seaworthiness or not. So that's about the classifications. And in the woods, so usually we have the LOI. Have you ever heard about the LOI? Market alloy companies. LOI is the most popular companies in terms of classifications of the ships, and if your ships can gain the A1 classifications, it means your ships is the highest in terms of quality. Okay, and for the other countries like South Korea and also the Japan, we also have the very popular, very well known, with a very good reputations in terms of the classification sector. Next one is like the trot or drop divisor. This is also the very special ones. In terms of very simple concept, so the trot or drop divisor is the distance from the bottom of the keel to the waterline. So again, I would like to show you about the picture related to the trap or the trot of the vessel. So for example, this is the waterline. This is the waterline. So it means when we operate in the ships, so a portion of the ships will be sink into the seabed, the portions. So that's why we have the waterline here, for example. So we can see that the trap devices can be seen as the distance from the bottom of the ships up to the waterline. And of course, we have many kind of trap, but I just want to show you the very general concept related to the trap divisor. So that's why we have the distance from the bottom of the keel to the water line. So this can be seen as a trap or the trot divisor. So based on that kind of concept, so my question for you is, so whether this is kind of the fixed or changeable factors. I mean the trot or drop devices. Is that the fixed or changeable factors?
I think it's a changeable factor.
Mm.
It depend on. I think it depends on three factors.
Mm.
First is the cargo. I mean the goods on the boat, on the vessel. The goods on the vessel.
Mm.
Secondly, it depends um, on the quality of the water. I mean, depend on the season.
Season.
Yeah, it depends on the
Okay.
season because in the summer and in the winter, the water is the quality of water is different. I I don't know specify in English how.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And finally is the the area of the sea that the vessel is traveling on.
Mm.
Because when the sea is salty,
Mm.
it makes the vessel is more floating up.
Mm.
Yeah, that's all
Okay.
my answer.
Okay. Thank you. Any other opinions?
I think
Okay.
draft. Oh, sorry.
Okay, sure, please.
Oh, okay. I think draft is something that you can manipulate because you can have a ship that goes into port carrying nothing, and then once it's loaded, like
Exactly.
I've heard of ships that can't get out because it's low tide or because they weighted down the boat so much that it'll hit the bottom if
Exactly.
it tries to exit. So it all depends on where you put things on the boat, how you even it out so that one side doesn't rock more than the other. So I think
Okay.
weight and containers play a
Okay.
big role.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Any other opinions? Okay, so regarding the drop devices, so based on this this kind of concept, so I also agree with you that this is the changeable factors and how. So also three things, or the three things depends on three things. The first one is depends on the volume of the goods that has been loaded onto the vessel. So that's why actually we have the other two concepts here, the light draws or loaded draws, to see the difference in terms of the trap or the trot vessels. If we have the different kind of volume of goods on board the vessel. So light trot, it means the trot the vessels if the vessels doesn't carry goods. And the loaded trot, it means when the vessels full of load. So of course, if you change the volume of the goods on board the vessels, of course you have the different trap of the trot vessel. That's the first thing. I think very typical. And the second one is about the season. I also agree with you that depending on the season, we also have the different kind of travel throughout the vessel. In more details, it means you have the summer and winter, the summer and the winter. And you know that's because in the summer and the winter, we have the different temperatures. We have the very big gap in terms of temperatures of the waters between the summer and winter. And of course, in the summer, because we have the warmer temperatures of the waters, so that's why actually the portions of the ships that has been sinking in and under the seabed or under the water lines, of course, should be higher than in the winters because the temperatures of the the temperatures of the waters are very low. So that's why the portions of the ships that under the waterline should be lower. So what I mean is, in terms of the season, so the draft of the throttle vessels in the summer should be higher than the draft of vessels in the winter. And last but not least is about the salinity. And similar to his opinion previously that because, for example, the oceans which more salty than the other one, or maybe I think this way is easier for you. So between the fresh areas and the oceans areas, so which ones the trap of vessels will be higher?
The ocean.
The oceans or the fresh water, the oceans waters and or the fresh waters in the fresh water. Which ones in which one the trap the vessel will be higher?
The ocean.
The oceans. Why the oceans?
Because the salinity is higher.
The salinity is higher. So
yeah. So the
if the salinity is higher, so the vessels will be more floating, right? It's a little bit confused, right? So, but you should think about that essay according to this way. If an oceans that higher with higher salinity, so of course our vessels will be more floating. It means that drop of the vessels will be lower. And vice versa, for the fresh waters, the salinity is, I think sometimes the salinity is equal to 0, or maybe just a very, very low. So that's why, of course, the trap of the vessels will be much higher. So what I mean is the trap of the vessels in the fresh water and also, for example, with the tropical areas will be the highest one. And for the other countries, like some countries in European areas, especially in, for example, in the Atlantic areas, northern areas, so usually the trap or the throttle devices will be the cheapest, the lowest one. So finally, I would like you to withdraw some kind of conclusion related to trap or throttle vessel. So based on all the information that we have analyzed, so what is the main meanings of the trap or throttle vessels? In other words, what is the purpose of understanding very well about the trap or throttle vessels? What is the meaning of the trap or throttle vessels? Or why do you need to understand very well what the trap or throttle vessel?
Yes.
Please.
The draft to ensure the maritime safety and at the same time make the most of the ship's capacity for loading goods.
Okay, can you just explain a little bit further about the safety in maritime transport that related to the draft or throttle vessel?
For example, when you in the winter you can load lot more goods, and at the point you shouldn't give more because it can be seen.
Anything else? So I think the first important meaning of the draft or the throttle advisor is, because if you know about the draft or throttle advisors, so the first thing that I think you have to do is, for any kind of port, you know that the depth of the port is also different in different ports. Or in other words, if we have the draft or the throttle devices, we also have the draft of the port. So it means if the draft of the vessel is under the draft of the port, it means the vessels can come in and out the port. In contrast, if the draft of the vessels is higher than the draft of the port, so in such cases, it's impossible for the ships to come in and out the port. And for such cases, the solution is you need to transit the goods to the smaller vessels with lower draft or draught, so that with the smaller vessels, it can come in and out the port. But of course, if we need to transit the goods to the smaller vessels, it raises some fees or the cost. You have to pay extra cost. So that's the problem. That's the first thing, to see about the ability of the ships to come in and out any ports and the ocean ports. So we need to compare between the draft or draught vessels with the draft of the port. That's the first thing. The other thing is, you can see that because the draft of vessels, this is the kind of changeable factors, depends on the season and depends on the area, the ocean area. For example, you can see that between Vietnam and Australia. So usually we have the contrast in terms of season. It means if we are now the winters, so the Australia is summer and vice versa. So for example, currently, if in the Australia this is still the summer, and you know that's what is if we are in the summer, so the draft of vessel is usually the highest one in terms of season. So if the draft of vessel is the highest one, it means you can load more goods onto the vessel. However, when the ships are going from the Australia to Vietnam, and in Vietnam, if this is the kind of it's still the winters, so you can see that in the winters, of course, the draft of vessels will be reduced, will be lower. So if you can keep the same amount of goods from Australia up to the port of Vietnam, for example, in the north area of Vietnam, so we have the winter season. So if we can keep the same amount of goods, so it means when the goods, when the ships and when the vessels come to the areas of the oceans of Vietnam, so sometimes because we have the very low draft of the vessels, so it means sometimes the ships cannot go in and out any kind of port or any ocean area of Vietnam. So that's why we need to understand about the draft of ships, so that if we have such kind of case, so we need to adjust the volume of the goods during the transportation process. So for example, we can, both of the two party, I mean the cargo owners and the carriers can combine each other's, and then maybe can negotiate that during the transportation process. We can transit the goods at any at other port, or before going to any kind of port of Vietnam, so we can transit the goods to the smaller vessels, smaller ships, so that we can avoid any problem that can happen to the ships related to the draft of the vessels. Understood? Clear? Any questions so far related to draft or draught? a little bit more information related to the travel throat, but I want to explain in very detail for you because later on when you analyze about the contracts, transportation contracts, once again you have to come back to the travel vessel and you have to understand very well about that kind of specification of the ships. So any questions so far? No? Okay, if you don't have any questions, so please have break, short break for 10 minutes. So we will come back at 11. Thank you. Hằng điểm danh giúp cô nhé Hằng nhé.
Dạ vâng ạ. Mọi người ơi, điểm danh nhá. Hey everyone, now I will check